The word God has become almost impossible to use in a clean way. If you say it in a room, half the people contract. They hear authority, dogma, control, a set of rules that they rejected a long time ago. The other half soften in a way that almost makes me uncomfortable, like the word is a warm blanket rather than a name for something real. And I've been watching this for a long time. What I think is going on, um, or what the problem is, maybe isn't the word, it's that both sides, the ones who rejected it and the ones who kept it, lost something that actually matters for how a person lives and perceives life. That's what I want to talk about today. The Sufi tradition, and I come back to this because it's the most precise language I've found for this territory, doesn't talk about God as a being who watches and judges. It talks about God as a reality that everything else is inside of, not a person or some kind of an entity above you, but it's a field that includes you and all creation. The Arabic word is al-haq, the real, not the good, not the loving, not the powerful, but the real, as in the thing that is actually there underneath everything else that appears to be there. There's a completely different starting point than most people are working from, including most people who consider themselves spiritual or religious. Because if the divine is a being above you, your relationship to it is vertical, obedience or rebellion, favor or punishment. And most Western religious trauma comes from this architecture. And most New Age spirituality is just a softer version of the same thing. A being who loves you unconditionally instead of judges you, but that's still a being above you. It's still vertical. But if the divine is the field, everything is inside, al haq, the real, then the question isn't whether you believe in it. The question is whether you're able to be in contact with it, whether you're oriented toward what's actually there or toward your idea of what's there. Those are not the same thing. And the difference between them produces completely different lives. Here's what I watched happen when someone is operating from contact versus from concept. When it's contact, when there's an actual orientation toward what's real rather than toward an idea, there's a quality of precision in how a person moves through their life. It's not certainty, it's not confidence in the motivational sense, but it's precision. They tend to know what this moment requires. They tend to know when to act and when to wait. They make fewer decisions based on fear, which is usually is just dressed up as logic. When it's concept, when the divine is an idea being managed rather than a reality being oriented toward, the decisions are noisy. There's more performance, more explaining, because there's more insecurity, more needing the outcome to validate the belief. You can watch it in how people talk about their spiritual lives. It sounds like a case being made rather than a thing being lived and reported. The Sufi teacher Ibn Arabi said something I think about a lot. Do not attach yourself to any particular creed exclusively. so that you may disbelieve all the rest. Otherwise, you will lose much good and you will fail to recognize the real truth of the matter. He's not saying believe everything. He's saying don't confuse your map for the territory. The creed is a map, the real is a territory. Most people, religious and secular, are defending their map as though it were the thing itself. And what that costs isn't just theological accuracy, it costs practical intelligence because the information that comes from actual contact with what's real, call it intuition, call it discernment, call it sixth sense, but call it whatever you need to call it. That information is only available when you're oriented toward the thing, not toward your idea of the thing. So, what actually shifts when someone moves from concept to contact? The first thing is that the need for other people to share the belief drops significantly. When your relationship with the divine is conceptual, when it's the belief system being maintained, it's enormously vulnerable to disagreement. Someone else not sharing the belief feels threatening because the belief requires consensus to feel real. Contact doesn't need consensus. It's not a position being held, it's an orientation being maintained. You just live it, you're in that state. You don't need someone else to agree that the sun exists for you to feel its heat. The second thing that changes is the quality of attention available in daily life. This sounds a little bit abstract, but it's very concrete actually when you watch it. People in genuine contact with what's real tend to be more present, not not always calmer necessarily, sometimes even more agitated because they're perceiving more, but more present. Less of their attention is being spent maintaining the architecture of a belief system. More of it is available for what's actually in front of them. In a relationship, this looks like actually seeing the other person. In a business, it looks like reading what's really happening rather than what the plan said should happen. In family dynamics, this looks like knowing what a child actually needs rather than what you think they should need. And this is what I keep coming back to. This is why I keep coming back to the divine as a practical subject rather than a theological one. Not because theology doesn't matter, because it does, but because the quality of contact a person has with what's real shows up in every aspect of their life. How they make decisions, how they handle difficulty, whether the intelligence they have access to is the full range or a reduced version of it, an imitation even. The question is never whether God exists. The question is whether you're oriented toward what's actually real or toward your idea of it. And those produce different lives, measurably different. And that's what's worth paying attention to. I'll see you next time.